Hey, what's up, guys? Tougie here, back again with what will hopefully prove to be a rather brief video, all things considered. If you've been around here for a while, you know we can get just a little bit long-winded when it comes to stuff like this, but it is trade deadline season. As a result, we have a trade to talk about here, don't we? Now, there have been quite a few trades, and again, I'll have videos out, I'll have podcasts out talking about all of it. I should be live streaming Monday afternoon over on twitch.tv/Tougie24, and again, Tuesday, we'll have a new episode of the Tougie's Take podcast out. Of course, you can search for that right here on YouTube. It's on Spotify, Apple, Google, everywhere you could possibly want to listen to podcasts, as we'll do a full recap episode for what ends up happening. For now, for the moment, we're here to talk about one trade and one trade only. And no, as much as I'd love to talk about what just happened between the Panthers and the Flyers, I'll hold off. I'll say briefly, what a deal for the Panthers. For Philadelphia, I get it. You want to get something for Claude Giroux, and that's a pretty good move. You probably could have gotten a little bit more, because otherwise Florida's options are Nick Paul and maybe Andrew Kopp if the Winnipeg Jets decide to sell. So as much as the Panthers had the Flyers kind of bent over the table in terms of negotiations, the Flyers had a little bit of leverage that I think they just kind of didn't use. We are here to talk about the newest Boston Bruin. We'll zoom this bad boy, and hopefully dark mode is visible for you guys for the most part. Light mode, though, is blinding. Hampus Lindholm is the newest member of the Bruins, alongside one Cody Curran, in exchange for John Moore, Urho Vakanainen, a 2022 first rounder, a 2023 second rounder, and a 2024 second rounder. Let's talk about this first and foremost from the perspective of the Anaheim Ducks, because I will not have as much to say about the Ducks as I will the Bruins, obviously. So for the Ducks, you move on from Hampus Lindholm. He probably wasn't coming back anyway. It makes sense, all things considered, to get something for him. And boy, did they get stuff. I mean, first and foremost, they get this extra second-round pick in exchange for taking on the contract of John Moore, which is something that the Bruins simply had to do. He still had 1 year left at 2.75, and I gotta be honest, there's gonna be some critiques of Don Sweeney in this video and for this trade, and one of the reasons for that is, as much as you'd like to give GMs credit for getting out from underneath their mistakes, they still made the mistake in the first place. I think the primary example I use for that, shout out to Adobe Creative Cloud, I think the primary example that I use for that is Marc Bergevin. I think he made mistakes getting rid of Max Pacioretty, PK Subban when he did. Say what you want about Shea Weber and the fact they made it to the Cup final. I think he made certain mistakes. He did very well to recover from them, but he still made the mistake in the first place. Not to say GMs are going to be perfect, but this contract for John Moore at the time was like, wow, okay, that's a lot for John Moore. It's not just revisionist history. And unfortunately for John Moore, he's had some injury troubles, right? He flat out has in his tenure with the Bruins. 61 games, 24, 5-7 this season. It's not his fault. He is an okay defenseman. Honestly, 2.75 is not that bad. For 2 years, maybe 3, there is no way you needed to give John Moore 5 years. If that's what it took to get him, what the hell are you doing? For the Anaheim Ducks, why not take on John Moore? Why not? It fetches you an extra second-round pick. That's great business. So essentially, you are getting a first-rounder this year, a second-rounder next year, and Urho Vakanainen in exchange for Lindholm and Cody Curran. Let's be honest, Cody Curran hasn't really gained traction at the NHL level. Very good European player, but at the NHL side of things hasn't done much. He's a tack on to this trade, let's be honest. Urho Vakanainen, I'm very sad to see him go, because I genuinely think there's something there. The problem, injury concerns. The biggest issue for him right now is his inability to stay healthy. So this kind of sucks. Anaheim, he gets a fresh opportunity to kind of, get healthy, gain some traction. And let's be honest, with the Bruins bringing in Hampus Lindholm, the Bruins already had a log jam on defense. And when you bring in another defenseman, he's even less likely to play. So it does make sense if you're going to acquire a Lindholm, it makes sense to go ahead and move on from Vakanainen. In terms of whether or not I think it was the right move to get Lindholm, well, we'll get to that, won't we? And then you talk about the extra first and second, which sets up Anaheim like this. First and foremost, all the cap space in the world, of course, and they might not be done. They don't have to be. You still have Rickard Rakell as a UFA. I don't know if they'd want to cash out on an RFA like Sonny Milano. He's had a pretty good year. As well, they were able to get a third-round pick for Nick Delorier. Minnesota all in favor of just grit, and grit heading into the playoffs, I guess. That's really the only benefit. And in terms of, what else Anaheim has, I mean, Ryan Getzlaf, unless he rejects to go, he does have a new movement clause, actually, so I'm sure he'll stay. But they still have some pieces that they can move on from. 3 second-round picks next year. You can already see, they're cultivating picks. And for Anaheim, and that's the reason why I have NHL.com up. For the Ducks, for the longest time, they were hanging around at the top of that Pacific Division, but you see now 65 points, 7 points back of the Golden Knights, both of them with 18 games to play. They're not a playoff team this year. Nobody really expected them to be a playoff team this year. I hope Duck fans kind of enjoyed that wild ride and that wild start. And it's nice to see somebody like Troy Terry be like, hey, yeah, I'm legit. He's going to get paid for it at the end of next year, but it's nice to see that step up. Of course, Trevor Zegras. The Ducks are set up very well. Very wise moves today on their part. Then you get to the Boston Bruins. Now, they give up the second-round pick not only to get rid of the John Moore deal, but to also have the Ducks retain 50%, which is just kind of what you do nowadays with UFAs. So Hampus Lindholm, his cap hit down to $2.6 million. That's not all that bad. And you know what? Really quickly, Cody Curran, like I said, there's probably not too much there. The guy's 32 years old. He hasn't played at the NHL level. He's been okay in the AHL. There's not too much to say there. I can't imagine he ever plays a game for the main team. Hampus Lindholm, 28 years old. Again, not on 525, but on 50% retained salary. That's a damn good deal. Hampus Lindholm, though, the concern with him is that he's not quite what he used to be, right? That is the major concern. And I think, say what you want about the analytical side of things, but there are two things here that really stand out. Now, first and foremost, again, no matter what your opinion is on the analytical side of things, it's just kind of a fact that Hampus Lindholm has not been as impressive as he's been in the past. There is always going to be that debate. Who is he playing with? How good is the team that he's on? Now, in terms of how good is the team that he's on, I'm sorry, but there are good players who can still perform well on bad teams. Claude Giroux. Flyers are trash this year. So I look at this and I say, yes, if Hampus Lindholm is playing next to Charlie McAvoy, will he look better than what this chart indicates? Probably. It's not a guarantee, though, and that's what scares me, because we have seen on occasions in the past, oh, yeah, slam dunk, you're going to go out and acquire this guy from a bad team, put him on a good team, and he'll be great. That's not a guarantee. It's perhaps likely, but that's not a certainty. So that scares me a little bit. The biggest issue with this, while I do have some confidence, is here's another example of the Bruins' defense. Basically, you want to, kind of be over here. You want to be over here, as you can tell. Low event, two-way dominance in terms of expected goals for versus against. Basically, McAvoy, Riley, Grzelcyk, all fantastic. Two of their current left defensemen are right there. For those who do not know, heading into today, the primary lefties, Mike Riley, Matt Grzelcyk, and Derek Forbort. Did you really need another left defenseman? Did you? I don't think they did. At least not as badly as other things that they need. So giving up all of this hurts. Oh, but Tougie, they're trying to re-sign Lindholm. That doesn't make me feel any better. Rental or not, that doesn't make me feel any better, because here is the problem. Lindholm, 5.2 is what he signed for. unless the Bruins re-sign Hampus Lindholm for around the same price, and even then, for a guy who's more of a defense-first kind of dude, will probably fetch you 20 to 30 points, it can be a bit of a risk for, again, a 28-year-old defenseman. If he doesn't sign in the next few days and he waits until the end of the season, what leverage do the Bruins have? Because it's either he plays poorly and the team fails in the playoffs, not directly because of him, or he plays very well, and I have a hunch he'll command more than a $5.2 million cap hit. That's a problem. That's a big, big problem. And I will tell you why. Number one, you can say what you want. The Bruins technically do have some more cap space to work with, and that is great. The reason why I am not 100% confident in this move right now is because this cannot be the completed puzzle. This has to be a part of the puzzle, and it is up to Don Sweeney to prove me wrong in terms of being concerned about this deal, because the Bruins still have issues. Here's my concern. They already don't have their first this year. They're missing the next 2 seconds after this year. So how willing are they going to be to move on from these first rounders, especially when a team like the Carolina Hurricanes, the Hurricanes of all people, who are in first in the Metro and are in this arms race, they're like, oh, we don't want to move those. The Hurricanes don't have the confidence to move those. You're telling me Don Sweeney's going to? That's not the Don Sweeney I know, and that I've seen run this team for the better half of the past decade now, of course. I look at this team, I look at their depth chart. Here's the defense and how cap-friendly hasn't lined up. Lindholm and McAvoy. Again, it's not a guarantee, so I am a bit concerned. But yeah, if Hampus Lindholm can't kind of turn it around playing next to Charlie McAvoy, then yeah, he's probably cooked. How long will it take him to kind of get into stride playing next to someone like Charlie McAvoy? And then what happens in the playoffs? Taylor Hall looked okay. He had 14 points in 16 games once he was acquired by the Bruins, and then had 11-5 playoff games. Or, excuse me, 5-11 playoff games. If it was 11-5 playoff games, he would have gotten more than $6 million. Now you have Mike Riley, apparently, second line projected, and Matt Grzelcyk. What do you notice about that left D spot? Oh, Derek Forbert's not there. That's because he's projected to be a healthy scratch, making $3 million. Unless Lindholm, Riley, or Grzelcyk move to that right side and you scratch Connor Clifton, who doesn't necessarily deserve to be scratched. He's a very solid third-pair defensive defenseman. You have $3 million of Derek Forbort scratched. That's not going to cut it. And that is my problem with the Hampus Lindholm deal. There needs to be another move. There has to be. You cannot have that much money sitting there idly and who is now going to be viewed as a depth defenseman, but he's rugged and tough and good to go for the playoffs. Especially if you're debating re-signing Hampus Lindholm. You cannot, you cannot afford to have that much money just kind of sitting to the wayside. And my biggest issue now comes from this tweet a little bit earlier, where I said fire Sweeney, and I stand by it. Because Chris Johnston of Sportsnet said this: the Bruins tried to acquire Ben fucking Sherratt. You already have probably a worse version of Ben Sherratt in Derek Forbort, and Ben Sherratt's not good. He's not. What are the positives of Ben Sherratt? Big, tough block shot. That's it. That's all Derek Forbort does. I agree with this guy. You might as well fucking bring back Zdeno Chara. If that's all you're going to look for in a defenseman, why'd you get rid of Zdeno? Fuck. At least Chara's leadership stands out way more than anything Sherratt or fucking Derek Forbort are going to provide. That's just a fact. So, again, there has to be more. There has to be, because we all knew this Derek Forbort contract was fucking questionable at the time. It's even worse now. You tried to acquire fucking Ben Sherratt. Ben Sherratt was your gold medal. You settled for... Don Sweeney's silver medal was Hampus Lindholm. Over Ben Sherratt as his gold medal. I'll take fucking downvotes on Reddit, which I've been getting for saying I question this trade, and that's all well and good. My ego's not fragile enough that hurts, but it will bring up the point to where I don't see what people are seeing with this. I'm sorry. Like, how do you not look at this and be like, yeah, there's still problems? I'm sorry, I got 3 confetti cannons to my right, saved up for a charity stream next weekend, Sunday, March 27th, by the way, raising money for Hope for the Day, a charity that helps make mental health help, for lack of a better term, more accessible. It's a lovely charity. It means a lot to me and hits home personally. I'm not popping one of those fuckers off because they got Hampus Lindholm. I'm not. Because you could say, oh, well, the Bruins got better and so did the Lightning. So, yeah. No, they're not even. The Lightning were up here. The Panthers were up here. The Bruins were behind them. The Bruins got better. But guess what the Lightning and the Panthers have done? They've gotten better too. So the Bruins are still stuck. They still have to do more or they're going nowhere. They're in the same spot as the Toronto Maple Leafs. And you could say, oh, well, Toronto's Toronto and they'll Toronto it. Fucking maybe. But I'm sorry, like, what, am I supposed to have confidence against Tampa? No. Florida? No. Carolina? Carolina has spanked the collective ass of the Bruins this season. You can't definitively say the Bruins are, you cannot say they're a top 3 team in the Eastern Conference. They're not. Fuck, they're 7th. They're behind the Rangers. They're behind the fucking Rangers. Have you seen the Rangers roster? Like, literally, it's Igor Shesterkin, Chris Kreider, Panarin, Zibanejad, and that's it. Adam Fox on defense. Like, look at this depth. Look at that. They got Frank Vatrano now. Look at that bottom 6. Look at this fucking defense. I mean, Patrick Nemeth, I used to love the guy, especially analytically. He was a beast. He's not that anymore. And then you have 22-year-old Keandre Miller, 20-year-old Braden Schneider. And sure, it's fucking close. But the Bruins are on a worse point pace than that. And I'm supposed to have confidence against any of the top 4 teams? Shit, even Pittsburgh. There's just no way. They still have moves to make. Because look at this forward group. Now, obviously, Jack Studnicka's normally not there. It's Bergeron, who's a little bit roughed up because it's Patrice Bergeron, and the guy played through a fucking Stanley Cup final with a hole in his lung. But Marchand, Bergeron, DeBrusk. DeBrusk has slowed down a bit over his last few games. And I'll see if we can just get a quick little search over on the Elite Prospects side of things. Again, one of my favorite sites in hockey because they'll have his last 5 and his last 10 right at the top. Boy, my internet's going slow. Last 10 games down to 4 goals, no goals, just 1 point in his last 5 games. That heater he was on, done. What are you going to do with him? You can qualify him at the end of the season. It's a lot of money. You're probably going to look to move on from him. Eric Holla is still your second-line center right now. Talk about other deals that I'm like, okay, and yeah, 25 points. It's not that bad. At the same time, we'll sit here and be on Elite Prospects. Elite P always loads somewhat slowly for me, but we'll go and look at Eric Holla because Elite Prospects also has the kind of point pace, the projected point pace for players. And Jesus, I feel like I'm using dial-up. He's projected for 34 points. He hasn't been there all season long, but you're between Taylor Hall and David Pasternak, and you're still only projected for 34 points. Like, I'm sorry. I can't help but look at this defense and say, Hampus Lindholm was not the biggest need. He wasn't. It helps, but you're not done. And you cannot afford to have $3 million of Derek Forbort sitting there. You can't. Oh, well, Tougie, they can trade. You're right, they can. But are they going to want to trade those first? We just talked about Carolina. Oh, well, they didn't give up any of their big prospects. They didn't give up Beecher. They didn't give up LaSalle. Are they going to want to do that? You calling up David Krejci now that his season in the Czech Republic's over? You bringing him back to play there? Like, they finally figured out a great third line. Craig Smith's really heated up. Fourth line's not bad, but holy fuck. Nick Foligno at $3.8 million. Do you see why I don't view this as fucking, yeah, major W? This team has some pretty fucking strong cap issues still within this lineup that are holding them back from being able to compete with the best of the best. The Bruins are a secondary contender at best in this division. And the problem is there are 3, maybe 4 teams that are in that legitimate contender category. Not just 1 or 2 where, oh yeah, you can sneak in. No, this is a conference of murderers. You have a near $4 million player on your fourth line. Oh, but he's a veteran. Okay. Everyone fucking knew that contract was rough. It's looking worse for Foligno. It's been okay for Erik Haula, but Erik Haula is your number 2 center heading into the playoffs. I don't fucking think so. And look, we're right where we knew we'd be when David Krejci left. Charlie Coyle slots him better as a third line centerman, but he's making over $5 million. You're paying him second line center money, but he's still on the third line. So who's your second line center going to be? What are you going to do with Jake DeBrusk? You're going to trust? I mean, Jake's had some, solid playoff performances in the past. You're going to trust him to be your number 1 right wing in the playoffs. Or even your second line right wing at this point. I don't mind the Hampus Lindholm pickup. I like Hampus Lindholm. I like his game. I'm not betting on it. But yeah, more than likely, he'll play some pretty goddamn good hockey. You have to move Derek Forbort. You have to. If you cannot just say Lindholm and done. You have Sunday and Monday until I believe 3 p.m. Eastern. What's the clock? The Cap Friendly has a clock. You have 1 day and 18 hours at the time of recording this to give yourselves a better shot of winning the Stanley Cup. And I'm sorry, but Hampus Lindholm isn't enough. And if you're not going to do more, then I view this as nothing else other than like, oh, well, we tried. We had faith in our guys. And if Don Sweeney has faith in this, there's reason to have faith in some of it, maybe most of it. But if Don Sweeney has faith in that, then my God, credit to him. Because I don't. I can't. The Florida Panthers just picked up Claude fucking Giroux. The Lightning, sure, they paid for an expense, they gave up the expenses for it, but that's what you do when you have a shot at a three-peat, a legitimate shot at a three-peat. You give up assets for Brandon Hagel. The Bruins cannot be done. They can't be. They need another piece, maybe another 2. And I don't know what those are going to be. So that is my reaction and my concerns with the Hampus Lindholm trade. I am not sitting here doing backflips over this because I'm sorry, it's likely not enough. That defense is pretty damn good. It is. I accept that. It is pretty good. The goaltending, granted, Allmark's down to a 909. I'm not as worried about the goaltending. You're not going to go out and get a goalie. Although Allmark at $5 million. Do you see what I mean? Do you see what I mean now about my concerns here? So hopefully, there is more to come. Because I am sorry, but I am already questioning Don Sweeney. You have been the GM for 6 years, 9 months, and 27 days. Yes, they made a cup final in that time. But Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, they're not getting any younger. You only have so many kicks at the can before you say, oh, well, Claude Giroux is getting traded to Florida. And the problem is, and I get Giroux wasn't exactly obtainable. I get that. At the same time, though, who's left? TSN, as of March 18th, which was yesterday, had Hampus Lindholm as the number 1 guy in their trade bait list, which is, I get why so many Bruins fans are excited. At the same time, shit, if you're going to give up that much for Hampus Lindholm and try to re-sign him, just fucking give up the King's ransom for Chychrun, because at least then you know you got the extra years. Why not also find a way to get Rickard Rakell in this trade? You're already giving up that much to the Ducks. He's a UFA at the end of the year. Why not try Rickard Rakell? Why wasn't he a part of this deal? And maybe you do need to use a prospect. Maybe you do need to use Jake DeBrusk. Why wasn't Rakell a part of this? And then at center, Nick Paul. I mean, we don't know if he's going to re-sign with Ottawa. He's negotiating right now. Shit, go for Jacob Middleton. He's been playing great hockey. He doesn't necessarily have the pedigree of Lindholm, but fuck, at least he's an RFA. Give it a shot. Justin Braun on that right-hand side. Shit, get Justin Braun. Move Connor Clifton back to his natural side. Get rid of Forbort. Max Domi can play center. I have more faith in Max Domi. I have more faith in Andrew Kopp if the Jets do indeed elect to move on from him. I have more faith in those two guys than I do with Erik Haula as their guy. And then way down here, way down the road, he is listed at center. JT Miller's name is still kind of hanging around out there, even though I think the Canucks should be stupid to let go of him. Johan Larsson. I like Johan Larsson a lot. And I think, honestly, he could kind of play the role of Coyle. You know, I know less points, but he's a stud defensively. I don't know. And then shit, Phil Kessel's name's out there. I don't know. They need to do more. And I hope they do. But right now, I cannot sit here and do backflips over this trade because it's not enough. You can't just dip a toe into the pool and say we tried as contenders when everyone else around you is also getting better. There needs to be more. You can't half-ass this, or you're going to get bounced in the first 2 rounds. Let me know what you guys think. I know, again, like I said, I've heard from people on Twitter and Reddit about how off base I am on this, but let me know what you think about this particular deal. Like I said, we'll talk about everything else. Everything up to the Brandon Hagel trade has been discussed on the Tougie's Take podcast. I should mention that. The most recent episode, we talked about the Ben Sherratt deal as well, which, again, I can't believe Don Sweeney was fucking trying to get Ben Sherratt. Oh, my God. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate you as always. And, yeah. At least I'm not a Leafs fan where they still haven't done anything, I guess. Like, that's where I'm at. Honestly, it'd be better to just have them not try than to half-ass it. I don't know anymore, guys. But again, thank you, and I'll see you next time.